Hi guys, Taylor Cocke here for Yahoo Esports. I am with Matt Wyble, who is a member of Team 5. He's the esports manager behind Hearthstone. And I really wanted to sit here and talk a little bit about the history and the future of Hearthstone Esports. So I figured, let's start with the past. Let's go back to the very beginning. You guys have stated before that you didn't really expect Hearthstone to get as big as it is. So what were the original plans for Hearthstone Esports? And sort of how did that evolve into where we're at today?
Sure. Well, first, thanks for having me. The original plans for Hearthstone Esports is that there wasn't a plan originally. I think both, like we've said previously, we didn't really know exactly what would happen when we released Hearthstone. If I rewind back to 2013, we had high hopes, but we really didn't know. And in terms of Hearthstone's esport potential, that wasn't something we spent a lot of time planning for in our initial stages. But as soon as the game got into beta, it was like wildfire in terms of community tournaments. All these people started popping up. And pretty early on, we realized, oh, this is this whole other vector of the game that we hadn't really planned for, but we want to make sure that we want to do something there that really honors our community. So from there, we had the Hearthstone World Championship. We did that in 2014 and 2015 and kind of continued to grow that scene while also doing what we could to help grow the third-party tournament seed, which is really important for us because that's where we came from. Mm-hmm. And then I think we did a pretty big step change in 2016 in launching the Hearthstone Championship Tour, which is a series of events sort of throughout the year that culminated in BlizzCon last year. And then this year we're doing the Hearthstone Championship Tour again, but now we're doing just bigger and better. So we're doing live championship events. We just did one in the Bahamas for the Winter Championship. We've got one coming up in a few months that we're really excited about as well. And then we're going to do a end of the year of the Mammoth Championship. Actually, it'll be in the beginning of 2018. That'll be a freestanding event as well, outside of BlizzCon, to crown the Year of the Mammoth World Champion.
Traditionally, I mean, at least last year, the World Champion was crowned at BlizzCon. So, so you're separating the difference between BlizzCon champion and the yearly champion now?
Yeah, we have some other content planned for BlizzCon. We're definitely still going to be there and be doing a lot of cool esports stuff. But we thought we really wanted to align this year the championships to the cadence of releases of our expansions. And we also know that the Hearthstone, if you follow Hearthstone, the Hearthstone calendar is aligned around year of. So we just had the year of the Kraken, year of the Mammoth is next. And that kind of goes from spring, somewhere like March, April-ish, to the following year. So we wanted to align with that system, which means that, we wanted the World Championship to be a little later than what BlizzCon would be.
So let's go back to the beginning a little bit, because there were a lot of, as you said, these community tournaments. Mm-hmm. And so how did you transition from, I don't want to say taking away, but sort of bringing it in-house from these, at the time, relatively low budget community tournaments into this big, cinematic experience of esports?
Sure. I think first, we didn't want to take everything. Right? We don't want to do everything. We wanted to make sure that we had a place for our community in that ecosystem, especially, like I said, because the community gave so much to us early on to even get this off the ground. We do want to learn from that, and I watch a lot of Trinity series. I watch a lot of third-party tournaments just to see what they're doing. We're definitely in contact with those people consistently, but I think beyond that, we wanted to make sure, okay, what are the spaces that maybe aren't quite served yet in the way that we'd want them to serve, and then that's stuff that we could work on. So the Hearthstone Championship Tour, that's thousands of competitors from around the globe, hopefully a higher production value. We're going to a live venue where you can come and check it out. Those are things that we felt like we were uniquely positioned to do. So that's kind of how we pick our spots, so to speak.
What were some of the pitfalls and challenges that came from attempting to make that shift? Mm-hmm. I would assume that there was there had to be some failures going on initially, perhaps that you were not happy about, that you learned from and took into the future.
Right. I definitely wouldn't call it a failure, but we've had to consistently learn and iterate on our formats. That's something we're still tweaking. We're going to tweak again for next season. And I think we've had huge wins there this year with the addition of Swiss to the playoffs, as an example, that allow us to tell really good stories about our players while giving our best players an opportunity to showcase just how good they are at the game.
we've been talking about this in the office a lot, and we have a video on the site from Frodan talking about the potential for perhaps weekly tournaments, just online, or regularly scheduled tournaments for more casual players to play in. Is that something that you guys have plans of doing in the future? Is that something you can speak to? What's the plan with that?
Right. Well, I can't unfortunately speak to any specific plans around that. It's something we're definitely interested in. We have our cup system right now, which I would say is still pretty nascent and pretty new. So that's attached to the Hearthstone Championship Tour, where you can go online and sign up for third-party tournaments that are administered. And those are a lot of those are weekly. There's one every night, every day of the week. I think that's really fun, but it's also right now sort of set up for a little bit more of a core audience for the game. So I definitely think we want to think about more of those things. Obviously, we did Heroic Tavern Brawl, which was pretty successful as well. So I think we need to keep iterating and figuring out what exactly that means for Hearthstone, but it's definitely something we're thinking about.
It seems that a lot of players are struggling to find ways to really find ways into the high-level competitive scene.
Right.
What are some of the ways that you guys are thinking about getting people in? What are making it more accessible to play against, even play against some of the pros at some point?
Yeah. So in terms of our the sort of higher level competitive play, maybe not like the ultimate top tier, but people that are, call it rank 5 players or above. That's really where I think we can do a lot more to help our cup scene thrive. And there's a few things we've done there this year that have really helped. Even just something so simple as, hey, when you hit Legend now at the end of the month, well, you've actually earned a Hearthstone competitive point. So you're actually on you're on our website. That's a big deal. They're actually, out of the people that play, it's like way less than 1%, right? That achieve that. So now what we do with those people is, hey, we'll send you an email and say, this cup system exists. Here's a website, go and check it out. And you'd be amazed at how many people, even just something as simple as that, as like a really simple invitation, has opened more doors. So it definitely feels like that's an area where we can continue to improve just even something like the invitations that we're sending out to let people know this exists, because a lot of our players don't know it exists. And in addition, we have a lot of things coming down the pipe for Fireside Gatherings, which are a really cool experience where you can go and play with your friends or with anyone really in the same location. Sure. And that's something, our own unique kind of Hearthstone spin on having a competitive, like a local competitive format. And we've been, we have people hard at work at kind of figuring that out. We've been doing like play tests in the office and checking out how it feels to play in person with someone else. It turns out I'm much more of a BMer when I'm sitting with someone that I know.
You have to throw the little well met every once in a while.
It brings out your true colors, and for me, I'm clearly the horrible person. So yeah, I think that's another avenue we have.
So speaking of the more personality side of things, I have noticed a bit of an issue in being able to really associate with professional players. And the reason for this is at the highest level of play, when you get to the stuff like the Winter Championship or the World Championship, there's oftentimes a really big rotating cast of players. It's pretty rare that you're going to see a player make a World Championship multiple times in a row. And that gets to the point where the question becomes, is that going to be a problem for Hearthstone Esports going forward? Because you never really get to know these players long term. Is that something you guys are looking into in order to try to solve that problem? Maybe get the personalities more on the forefront of things? Yeah,
it's absolutely something we spend a lot of time thinking about. Of course, it's balanced by this desire of, hey, we want to make sure that you can play at, there's a 16-year-old kid somewhere who's playing at home, who's just getting better and better, and that this next season is going to be someone's big break. So we that's very important to us. While the point you raise about having these personalities is important, there's a number of things that we're doing there. One is we just want to have more content and more opportunities to showcase those players. So this year we launched the Hearthstone Global Game, so you could 48 countries, 4-person teams, and you could vote if you're within that country. You could vote for who's going to be on that team. So it's an interesting mix of teams that are like just more straight streamer personality folks, and then there's some that are like just high-end competitive players, sort of mesh together, and that's going on for a number of weeks. That gives a lot of opportunities for people to kind of you just see these personalities on a Hearthstone stream. We also have Hearthstone Invitationals, which we are going to debut later this year, which will have be a little bit more free flowing and allow us to showcase some of those personalities. And then in terms of like Hearthstone Championship Tour, there's two huge things I think we're doing there. One is, hey, let's make sure that the format itself lends itself to the little bit higher rates of the highest skilled player coming back. So you saw, for instance, Pavel get through to the championship after winning the World Championship last year. And we think things like Swiss and continuing to tweak those formats are one way we can do it. The other thing I'll say, though, is we really wanted this year to get better at telling stories about our players. So like at the Winter Championship, we produced an enormous number of pieces on those players to kind of give you a sense of who they were. And that's something where we're really excited about. I think we saw some new stars get born there. Dr. Jinkiniki, I think I said that right. That might be the first time I've ever said that right.
I don't think I've ever said it. I think I've only ever written it down.
So someone like that, when you just get him on screen and people can hear his story, and now all of a sudden, like, he's a really interesting person.
Yeah.
And the more we can do that, I think the more we can just showcase those people that you might not be aware of yet, but they have this really interesting backstory and they have a lot of cool things to say. Doc Pone was another example. They're obviously going to be at the World Championship now next year. So I think those getting better at telling those stories and tweaking some formats so that continuing to tinker with the format to try to encourage a little higher rate of repeat entrants are both key.
So speaking of formats, I'm going to do another loose transition here. I wanted to talk a little bit about potential other competitive formats within Hearthstone. Magic the Gathering has a wide variety of formats. You see, standard constructed. You're going to see, it used to be called extended back in the day, but it's effectively the wild format. You see sealed formats and you see draft formats of play, and those are sort of the big four. So is that something that you guys are looking into really supporting in Hearthstone? Specifically, let's talk about Wild first, because that is the big conversation. All these old cards that I have are sitting there. I mean, I could jump into the Wild ladder, or I could just play Standard.
Sure.
And notably, this past week we had on Reddit, Ben Brode popped on and said, "Hey, maybe we're going to bring back Wild packs. We'll see." Is Wild something that you guys are looking into supporting for the competitive scene as you guys go forward?
Yes, we are going to have Wild first-party tournaments this year that we're definitely going to support, and I think that has the opportunity to continue to grow. I think the difference between last year and this year is that last year there were only 2 sets rotated out, so the difference between Wild and Standard was significant, but it wasn't huge. Where this year you're seeing a lot more divergence, and I think as you have more divergence, it becomes more interesting to have a separate Wild format, and that'll only be more true going forward. It's definitely something we want to support and we want to commit to, and I think we'll be figuring that out, and then who knows for next year. We're still kind of thinking about what that'll look like.
So let's talk about this sort of different, even weirder formats. For example, just this past week we saw the Red Bull Team Brawl, which was one of my favorite Hearthstone events I've seen in a while, simply because, for those who don't know, the way that it worked, it was teams of 3 were given 200 cards, and they had to build decks out of those 200 cards. And it was really interesting to see these guys try to put decks together that weren't going to be this ideal list of an archetype. And it was cool to see a guy like Brian Kibler come out on top, because he's an old Magic the Gathering guy and has had a lot of success in sealed formats. Have you guys been exploring any of that within Blizzard, looking into maybe putting together some more sealed formats kind of stuff, or is that something that is a little too far down the line?
I think that's still down the line some ways. When we launched the Hearthstone Invitational brand and start doing events around that gives us, one of the core goals of that is to have flexibility to try out new and different things and kind of put a Hearthstone spin on them. The Red Bull event was amazing. I think sealed events are cool, and a lot of people have a lot of history in those events. One thing that's really nice about them is they highlight deck building, and that's something is a huge, massive component of Hearthstone.
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of the famous early Hearthstone personalities, like Reynad, for example, were guys that were able to create decks, and I think that's something that's interesting about Hearthstone.
Yeah, and you saw someone like Green Sheep during the EU playoffs had just this sort of next level lineup of decks that really countered a lot of the other, a lot of his opponent's decks very well. Shitanodachi one is known as an excellent deck builder. Frozen brought some very interesting and different decks to the championship. So that's a really cool element that we would like to incorporate in new and different ways. Maybe one of those ways we'll have to see, and I think we need to figure it out, but is in a format like that kind of makes you think on your feet a little bit more. It's a possibility. We still need to figure out what that would look like, though.
All right, Matt, thank you so much for talking to us today. For everyone else, this is Taylor Cocke, and this is Yahoo Esports.